Hi crocheters, this is Kelsey Emerson from the Knotting Shed, and welcome to my latest mystery crochet along, the Stag and the Serpent. This project has been a long time coming. I've been researching and writing for over a year, and I can't wait to have you start on this journey with me. It's going to be so much fun. The story includes a lot of magical, mystical elements, from traditional paganism to mythic folklore of the American Southeast, all the way to just things that I find compelling, magical, things in nature, the four elements, animals and plants. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you haven't already, I really encourage you to join our private Facebook page. That's where we will share progress photos, updates, news about upcoming future projects. It's a really fun place to be and a great place to build community for you and your fellow crocheters. I can't wait to get started with you. I do have a few helpful tutorials coming up, so stay tuned if you have any questions, and you can always reach out to me at knottingshed, that's knottingshed@gmail.com. Thanks again for coming, and I'm so excited to crochet with you. So let's take a closer look at our chart. At first glance, it resembles somewhat like a embroidery pattern, and this can be very overwhelming, especially if you're unfamiliar with reading charts. But remember, I have also typed out a full text version of this pattern, so if that works better for you, please feel free to use that. I like a chart. It just kind of makes it more intuitive, quicker to read. But I do want to show a few things that will help you. So every 10 rows, there's a vertical bar that will help you with counts. So instead of counting, 30 something across, you can work as you go. So you have 10, 10, 10. That will help you. When you are working a chart in crochet, there's several different techniques, but I am more mimicking an inset crochet technique where you will be working 2 rows of alternating colors. They go back and forth. So aside from this bottom foundation row, this is actually going to be 4 rows going across. You'll always start the bottom right corner in odd rows, and there's little numbers here to help you keep track. Start from the right, you're going to work your way across left, you're going to go up, and now even rows here, you work left to right, and it kind of continues in this serpentine pattern. Odd rows are always worked right to left as you read. So you'll start with this little section first, and then even rows are the opposite. You'll start up here and work backwards. There's so many hidden symbols and charts in here, and that was part of the mystery. So hopefully it doesn't totally reveal what you're making at first glance. That is where this stitch legend is going to come in handy. Open squares are single crochets. Squares with dots in them are back loop single crochet. Squares with triangles in them are front loop single crochet. Double crochets in the front loop. 2 rows down are the X's, and you'll go 3 rows down with these little arrows, downward facing arrows. This will make sense later in the tutorial if any of these stitches are unfamiliar. The colors are also going to be key. The darker color here, the dark gray, is going to form your background image, and the lighter color is what's going to show up as your main color. And this feels a little confusing if you've never done Mosaic before, but what ultimately ends up happening is stitches from the opposite color will pull down and cover up kind of what you don't need to see. So just be sure you're following in order. So if it's a light colored row, that means you're going to be working your main color image. If it's a dark color row, you'll be working your background image. And these stripes do come in handy too. I'm going to sneak a peek at a work right here. This is what your edges may look like, where you'll have light and dark and light and dark and light and dark. This will help you keep track because you can count your rows 2 by 2 as you go along. Don't look at that. It's a little sneak peek. So yeah, we're going to get started. We'll work through a few rows together here. probably through row 10 or 11, I want to say. And if any of this is still very confusing, overwhelming, it's just not for you, go ahead and jump right back into that text thing. If this is not helpful, this is just meant to be an extra tool for those of you that do like Mosaic charts. And I do want to warn you quickly too, if you are very used to Mosaic, I've sort of blended some techniques together. So don't just assume that you'll want to know the stitch placements. I've kind of hidden things in here. Yeah, and you'll see as we go. It'll be a nice surprise. So best of luck, and let's get started. So now it's time to get started with our charted pattern. I have already gone ahead and made the first 4 rows of our stag pattern. If you notice on the chart, it's 4 solid rows of just black squares with no symbol inside. That indicates that we're doing a single crochet in our background color. So now we're about to get started onto row 5. And I'm going to attach my main color. So this is going to be the one that's going to start showing my image as I work through. I'm going to just simply kind of add a slip stitch here to sort of lock it in place. And I can let that gray tail hang off to the side because I'm going to be carrying my colors up as I work through this pattern part. If you prefer to cut your tails at the end of every other row, you can do that too. There's just a lot of weaving in to do at the ends that I like to skip. So I also tend to crochet over my tails. If you want to save this one and weave it in as well, you go ahead. So we're going to start with a chain and a turn. Now every row, regardless if you're working right to left or left to right, will always start with a single crochet, and that will kind of lock in your color transition. It also helps to keep track which row you're on. You can count the stripes going upwards from the bottom. So if we take a look at row 5, we're starting off with a white background square with a little dot in the center. So according to our stitch key, that is a back loop only single crochet. If I count over, going from right to left, there's 37 back loop only single crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will get back to you when I finish my 37. So now I've had these done, and next on my chart I have 4 empty white squares, which indicates a simple single crochet going through both the front and the back loop. So I'm going to just go ahead and do 4 single crochets, followed by another 17 back loop single crochets, and closing it up with a single crochet. The start and end of every row will just be a simple single crochet. Now if I look ahead at my chart, row 6 is an even row, so I'll be working that one left to right. And this one is a straight row across of single crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll meet you back for round 7. So here we are, having just completed row 6. It's a solid row of single crochets across from the back side. I'm going to quickly turn this around and just go over row 5 again. We had 1 single crochet right here, 37 back loop single crochets. Here's those 4 single crochets, and you can kind of see them a little bit better. They'll be like stitch marks going down, and that will make a difference later in seeing your image. 17 more back loop single crochets, and then we lock that row in place with a single crochet. So let's turn this back over. Before I get started onto row 7, I did want to show you quickly how I color change. Instead of pulling through on my final stitch with my main color, I will instead let that fall back, grab my background color, and pull through that last loop. That way I don't have to cut and tie off dozens and dozens of ends. If you prefer to do it that way, that's totally up to you. I just like to save myself a little step. You'll notice on the other side it does leave a bit of a longer strand showing through if that bothers you. We will ultimately be crocheting over this in a small border and or joining it together with other pieces depending on which version of the pattern you choose. So for now, I'm just going to let that green main color fall, and now I'm going to pick up with my background color again for row 7. Okay, so I've chain 1 and a turn, and I always start each row with a single crochet. And now if we look at our chart, the next few 37 stitches actually are going to be a front loop only double crochet 3 rows down. So we're actually going to be skipping entirely over this main color image here and working into this front loop right here into the same color. So I'm going to work a double crochet as normal, and instead of going through it this way, I actually want to pull it from the bottom up, yarn over, and pull through to make a double crochet. It makes a bit of a taller stitch, and it kind of ends up covering up that main color behind it. This little loop might pull up a bit for you, and that's okay. Overall, the image is still going to show through just fine. So don't worry about that yet. When tension and blocking like that should resolve itself. So let's keep doing a few more of these. I actually like to fold my piece a little bit so I don't even have to worry about that. So we're just going to work a few double crochets right into this front loop of the same background color. And our pattern calls for 37 of these. And I will stop when we reach the next section. So I've just finished my 37 front loop double crochets. And I wanted to point out there will be like 2 layers that you're ending up creating here. Whatever you're hiding will kind of fall behind. For now, just ignore that. I will address that just here on the next row. But just to bring that to your attention, it almost creates like a little pocket sort of. But don't let that distract you. So after my 37 front loop only double crochets, now I have a black square with a small white dot. So that's a back loop only single crochet. Take a little care here to just track your stitch placement. You won't be wanting to work accidentally like into the same stitch that you already have your front loop in. So just make sure you're tracking that. So we've placed a stitch here in this one. Now my back loop only will be in this next space here. So we have 4 back loop only single crochet. Followed by 17 more front loop double crochets. So we've kind of left this little box open. This part of your main image will now be showing through from within your background color. So we'll continue with the remaining front loop double crochets. Along to row 8. If you look at our chart, we have just a full row across of simple single crochets. However, we do have a few options on how to accomplish your returning rows, the rows that work left to right. And it really depends on what you're going to make. So as you recall that little pocket here, I can either leave this loose and work across simple single crochets, and then that little bit in the back will just hang as is. It's in the back side of your project. Nobody will notice it. However, if you are making something like, say, a blanket where you'll be laying underneath it and this texture might bother you, you can lock that lower row into place by picking up the back loop of the previous stripe, I guess, and then working through the front and back loop of your gray. So you actually will have 1, 2, 3 loops that you're working through to pull through, to make a single crochet. And see how that kind of catches it, it locks it in place. Now it's not going to go anywhere. If I do a few more across like this, you may see what I mean. And now that open pocket is no longer open, it is locked in place. This is a little bit more fiddly, but let me show you what ends up happening to your project. I do have two samples. So say you're gonna make maybe a wall hanging. So here's an example of what this will look like. You'll have a series of almost like gills or something hanging out. But if you turn the image over, I don't want to show you too much of this, you won't, from the front side, it doesn't really look like anything at all. You'll just know from the back side. It makes your fabric a little bit more loose and drapey and smooth. Alternatively, you can do that method that I was showing you where it locks it in place, and it creates a bit of a thicker, denser fabric. So there's less movement here, but the texture is smoother, there's less to catch. This would be a good option if, say, you're gonna make a blanket. Okay, so let's continue on with our row 8. It is just a row across of single crochet all the way across before we will switch it into color. So you choose which technique. If you want to leave it open and have this little bit flapping, or you want to lock it in place, we're going to work all the way across in a single crochet. So here I've reached a point, if you are locking it in place, where there's not a back loop to lock into, this is fine. You can just work right across these 4 as you would a regular single crochet. Since we didn't have that little pocket open here anyways, it doesn't really matter. It is locked in place. So here we are at the end of row 8. And I'm going to do the same kind of color transition technique on this last pull through. I'm going to drop my working color and pick up the next color. So row 9, we're going to again always start with a single crochet. Then it looks like we have 7 back loop single crochets, 3 single crochet, 5 back loop single crochet, 3 single crochet, now 18 back loop single crochet. So I've just done my 18 back loop single crochet here in row 9. And I've reached a point, so I've done 18, and you'll notice that this part doesn't quite line up. So this is where we have to add another that 1 single crochet, and then it calls for 4 front loop double crochet, and we're going to go down, skip over our background image instead this time, and work into the front loop here in our main color. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if it helps you, I see how I'm kind of folding it over, then I don't get tangled up in myself. Okay, so next we have 17 back loop single crochets and a single crochet to finish up this row. Now I've gone on ahead and I've turned and done the single crochet across the back side of row 10. But I wanted to pause here because we have a new symbol. It is a plain white with a triangle. If we look at our chart, a triangle is going to be a front loop single crochet. Ignore this bit for here because we're only going to be locking our stitches into place on background color rows only. So just leave that here for now. This is going to be that pocket that we address again later. So we do want to do 1 front loop single crochet here. So I'm going to push it through and leaving that back loop open on our front side because there's going to be a double crochet that's going to go through there later. And then the rest of this row is single crochet across. And we've reached the final row of this tutorial. We have covered all of the stitches. It's quite simple as you work through it. It's just a matter of getting your eyes attuned to seeing what you're looking for. So we're working on row 11. It's a nice mix-up of all the stitches that we've worked on so far, but there is one stitch that we haven't done just yet. I'm going to work my way across all the way until we get to this front loop that we had left open here. I'll meet you when I get there. Okay, so our last stitch in this tutorial, I paused a little bit ahead of where I need to show you. So I've just completed 18 front loop double crochets 3 rows down. Then we have 3 back loop single crochet, a regular single crochet. And now I'll pause here. We have a new symbol. It is a square with an X inside of it. So all this means we're still doing a double crochet, front loop double crochet, but instead of going down 3 rows, we're going to put it right here in this one that is 2 rows down. And then we'll continue with our front loop double crochet 3 rows down. So there we go. Kind of makes like a curved shape a bit. So this is where I'm going to leave you. I hope this has helped. We can kind of start to see little snippets of something showing up. Remember, if these little back pockets bother you, whenever you're working back rows on your background color, when you're working even rows, you can lock those in place or you can leave them open. And yeah, so if anyone has questions still on this technique, please be sure to reach out in our Facebook group, or you can email me at the Knotting Shed. Thank you.